What's up, everyone? It's Missy from Fire Fitness Camp Fond du Lac. So today I'm going to go over a mobility workout with you. We do a mobility workshop every Wednesday night here, and this is the first step of our first day of our mobility program. I'm going to go through all the exercises. I'm going to tell you how long I would want you to hold them or what I would want you to do with it, but I'm not actually going to do it for time. So the length of this video will be much shorter than it would take you all together. Altogether, if you're doing this right, it would take you anywhere from 40 minutes to about 50 minutes, or you can kind of break it up and just do little pieces at a time based on where you feel like you're tight and where you feel like you need to get a little bit more mobile. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to talk about foam rolling. So lots of different foam rollers out there. I'm just going to use a really basic Amazon Basics one. Otherwise, there's ones with little grooves in them that's going to get it a little bit deeper, but really any kind of foam roller is going to work just fine for you. So we're going to start out by foam rolling our piriformis. So that is right here, kind of just above the main part of your butt. So it's a deep glute muscle is what we're working on. So I'm going to start by sitting on my foam roller. Okay. I'm going to put one foot over top, and then I'm going to scoot a little bit so I have room to turn. And then I'm just going to turn just a little bit to my side, and right about there, I'm going to be on my piriformis. So I want you to sit on it for anywhere from 30 to 60 seconds. 30 seconds at minimum is what it's going to take to start hydrating those muscles. The other thing to think about when you're foam rolling, it's a great idea to have a bottle of water with you, because basically what we're doing, we're hydrating all these muscles and we're kind of putting the water in your body to that spot. So you could get a little bit dehydrated, so you want to make sure that you're drinking some water while you're foam rolling. So after I've held it for 30 seconds, if you want to get a little bit deeper in it, you can go just small little movements up and back, or you can turn a little bit side to side. Careful of getting over onto your hip bone there, but you can rotate a little bit side to side. You always want to try to find just a little bit deeper spot in there after you've held it for that first 30 seconds. But the biggest thing or misconception about foam rolling is we don't want to do these big sweeping movements, because all that's going to do, if you think about your spot, your knot, say you've got a knot there that you're foam rolling, right? So you think about it like it's a knot in this band, right? So if I'm doing a big swooping movement, right, all I'm really doing is I'm squeezing it out there, boop, over that speed bump, squeezing it out here, boop, over that speed bump, and I'm never actually taking care of that knot. And I could really just be putting more tension on it as I lengthen the areas around it. So that's why I want to kind of hang out on that knot, on those tender spots, so that I can help hydrate that, or release that would be another word for it, or inhibit, so that I can actually get some release. And then it's okay to do a little bit more of a movement to get deeper down into that fascial tissue. So next one, we are going to move on to, what do I got next on my list? We've got our TFL. So our TFL, you can think about it like your hip pocket, okay? So it's going to start right up here in your hip pocket, and then it kind of fans out down from there. So I'm going to start kind of just up in my hip and then scoot down just a little bit. And everyone's going to feel this at a little bit different spot. Really anywhere along that TFL will do. Biggest thing is you want to make sure that you're not on that hip bone or on that joint right where everything connects. So if you're feeling like a zinger up or down your leg or anywhere up your stomach or your spine, you're not where you want to be. You want to move down a little bit more. So I'm just going to start right there, and I feel a good tender spot, and I'm going to hold it for 30 seconds. And then if I want to get a little bit deeper, I can just do about 5 or so of just a little leg raise, and that's going to get deeper down in there. And then you can go right down into the rest of your quadricep. So there's multiple muscles there, and you can kind of find those tender spots. The biggest thing I'll warn you of is right in the meat of the quad. That is going to be a doozy. It's kind of tough for a lot of people to sit on there, but it's a great idea to find a spot right about here and then move down a little bit, or start just above your knee and move up a little bit after you've already done your TFL. You want to spend anywhere up to 2 minutes on each muscle group. So you can spend up to 2 minutes on this leg, or up to 2 minutes on this leg. Or you can just go with that TFL, knock out the 30 seconds, and then start folding leg. It kind of depends on what you have time for. The more you can do, great, but anything is better than nothing. And that's the thing to remember when you're thinking about foam rolling. Sometimes you don't have a ton of time to dedicate to this stuff, but even if you can do a couple muscle groups a day, you're going to be far better off. So our next one is going to be our gas rock. So we're going to work in basically the calf right back here. So this could be a little bit tricky spot to get. There's a couple different ways of doing it. So I'm going to start with my leg right here, and then I'm going to use my other leg to apply pressure to it. Some of us feel it pretty good there, and some of us can't really feel all that much. If you want to try to get it deeper, you can definitely lift up your body weight. The only risk in that is you could be hurting your shoulders, hurting your wrists. So if that feels weird, trying to lift it up there, the other option would be is to do kind of just a slow and controlled roll with that foot side to side, and then maybe up and down nice and slowly. You never really want to go super quick with that because all you're really doing is adding way too many repetitions to the ankle, and that's going to add more wear and tear, and we don't really want to take it that direction. But just slow and controlled movements would be great. And again, you're going to hold for 30 seconds, anywhere from 30 seconds to a minute. And just like any other muscle group, you can do about 2 minutes per muscle group, or find, the tightest spot there, hold that for 30 seconds, maybe do a couple slow waves with the foot, and then move on. Next, we are going to do the adductors, so otherwise known as the adductors, however you want to call them, it's just fine. It's the inside right here. These are the muscles that we hit with like sumo squats and things like that. So this can be a super tender spot for a lot of us. So buckle up. It's going to be great. You're going to be right here, and we're going to kick. We're going to turn my foam roller sideways. I'm going to bring my knee up to a 90, and then I'm going to start in close to the groin. And right there for me right away, I'm on a spot that is just lighting up. So I would hang out there for 30 seconds. And if I want to get that a little bit deeper, I can straighten out my leg. Maybe you can't really see it on the screen, but I can straighten out my leg, and that's going to get it a little bit deeper in there. So those are kind of the main spots that when we're squatting and we have inhibited movements, start with those four. That's really going to start to kind of loosen up everything. So if you're one of those people that's got a killer, forward lean when we're squatting, or if you have a hard time not pushing your knees forward, that's a great spot to start. So you can start with those muscle groups. Think about doing it before a leg day. Really, anytime you're working out, we're always using our legs, or just in general. You want to think about doing this multiple times a week, and you're going to get some real benefits in your mobility. So then we're going to foam roll a couple different spots, and we are going to move on. So our next one is going to be, I've got the lat dorsi. So we're going right here. So another thing that we see a lot when we're assessing movement, we get a little forward lean, or we can't get our arms past here. A lot of us, especially with how often we're on our phones or we're sitting at a computer typing, we get lots of that. So this area is going to be super tight. All we're going to do is just hang out right on there. Oh, there it is. And it doesn't take long to find. I typically start in my armpit, and I just down a little bit. And for me, my lats are always super tight. So it is just lit up right now, just hanging out here. So I'm going to hang out for 30 seconds. And then if I can, I'm going to do some kind of movement, and that's going to get a little bit deeper in. And I've got one more. So, and then also we're going to go right to our pecs. It's a little bit weird for women, but you can definitely still foam roll that area. It will help with if you've got a little bit of upper cross syndrome. So if you're kind of rounded in the upper back, this is going to kind of help release these pec muscles a little bit. So you are going to go just over top of it, start in the armpit. You will find really, really tender spots right in front of the shoulders, and that's not necessarily what you be. You want to go a little bit more inside towards the pec, and we're just hanging out there again. And I can move around after I've sat for that 30 seconds, and that's going to get me a little bit deeper in all of those. So once we foam rolled those, we then want to go ahead and static stretch those. So the best route to actually getting more mobility and having these foam rolling techniques actually stick is to then go ahead and static stretch everything that we just foam rolled. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to do the piriformis, and we're going to do it right up on a box. So just right here, putting my knee over top, and I'm going to drop my hips, trying to keep strong in my thoracic spine. So my upper back, I'm trying to stay strong, and I'm just kind of leaning down into it. If you want, you can fold down into it, but be careful just what the spine looks like on that. We're just hanging out and breathing, and it feels plenty good. If I turn a little bit here, it's going to give me a little deeper stretch. The goal on these, on all of our stretches, is we're going to try to stretch for 20 seconds, and then you're going to take a big deep breath. And as you breathe out, try to go a little bit deeper into your stretch, not super far, but just add a little bit more movement in there and hold that for an additional 10 seconds. So you're holding for 30 seconds total. Obviously, make sure that you are doing both legs. So next one that we are going to stretch out, I'm going to show you how to use a band. We're going to stretch out kind of the TFL a little bit into your quads. A couple of different ways to do this one. I love using the band. It's going to be called neuromuscular stretching. So it's just going to be another great way to do it. And it's really one of the best ways to hit the hip flexors and the quads and everything like that. So I'm going to go right here. And all I'm going to do is pull with this band and get a good stretch. This I can feel mostly in my quad. Typically, if I want to get it a little bit down, deeper down into my TFL, I have to roll over to my stomach and kind of elevate my knee off the ground a little bit. So now I can feel it further down into my hips. And again, you're going to want to do about 20 seconds, take a big deep breath, and try to extend that stretch another 10 seconds. I would personally get more of the quad and also do another variation with the TFL, or nothing fancy, a regular old hip flexor stretch. Right here, I'm going to push my entire pelvis. So I'm going to push it back, and then I'm just going to pop it forward. I'm not going to lean into it because that's going to move the stretch elsewhere, and it's not really going to get it in my hip flexor, but I'm just going to push it forward, and then I'm going to lean back and just reach. And that is getting really deep down into my hips. So you can use any one of those as your hip flexor stretch, as your quad stretch, but just make sure that you're doing some kind of stretch after you foam rolled that area. And then we have got next on the list. Oh yeah, our calves. So typical calf stretch, right? We've all done lots of different variations of that, and really almost anything will do. I just like a good standing calf stretch, one leg at a time. I'm stretching my back leg here. I'm pushing my heel down into the ground and leaning forward with it. Again, I'm going to do 20 seconds, take a big deep breath, and then try to push it forward just a little bit more. Next, we've got a fun stretch for the lat dorsi. So I'm going to utilize my stability ball. You could also do so on a foam roller. If you don't have a stability ball, you can turn your foam roller on its side and stretch it out here. So I'm just going to lean into it. Everyone's going to feel it a little bit different. Some of us will have to move back a little bit, although be careful of the tension that puts on your shoulder. Or some of us can be right up here. Either way, you're going to get that good stretch on the lat dorsi there. And then we got our pec. Something super simple. Go to a door, just right here, and turn into it. It's all it's going to take. Or if you want to hit it just a little bit different, you can hook your elbow and get a turn into it like this. I can feel deeper down into it and actually into the front of my shoulder, which for me is going to be more beneficial because my shoulders are generally quite tight. And I think that's all we got for the stretching. So we're going to do the foam rolling. We're going to do the stretching. And now we're going to go into actually strengthening the opposite muscle groups that we just stretched out. So we've stretched everything out on one side. Then we want to strengthen up the other side to kind of try and hold them in place, basically, would be the best way to say it. So what we're going to do, we are going to do a little bit of everything. So the first one we're going to do is we're going to try to strengthen up those adductors a little bit. So I'm going to come up on a slightly elevated surface right here. And so for these, you're going to think about a tempo, okay? So you're going to do a 1, 2, 4 count. So what I'm going to do And actually this one is going to be opposite of what I was just saying. So I'm going to go down for 4 seconds. Okay. I'm going to turn my feet out a little bit. So I'm getting like a sumo spot. I'm going to go down for 4 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to hold for 2. And then I'm going to explode up for 1. So that concentric movement, so the up movement is going to be your 1 count, and always that eccentric movement is going to be your 4 count. So you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 down. You're going to hold for 2, and then you're going to explode up and go for 1. So you're going to do both sides. We're going to shoot for anywhere from 8 to 10 reps on this. Next, we got the hamstring pull. So you're going to take your band and you're going to put it around anything you can put it around. Right here. Okay. And I'm going to go quick on the out. Okay. And then I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to go quick. I'm going to hold for 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's just lighting up my hamstrings right there. So isolated stretching techniques, it's going to really help activate those muscles. And what do we got next? We've got our anterior hip pull. So we're going to, right here is our anterior hip. So that's the opposite of the calf that we just stretched out. So I'm going to grab my foam roller again. And I'm going to go ahead and do super simple. Wrap my foot around it. And I'm going to loosen it up right here. And I'm going to go quick on the in. I'm going to hold for 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. Quick. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm always holding for that 2 before I release that, so I can really activate those muscles. And all right, next one, crowd favorite. We're going to do a YTA. So we're going to try to activate kind of in that upper back area. So it's exactly what it sounds like. I'm going to be in a forward hinge, but just so you can see what my arms are doing, I'm going to make a Y. I'm going to come down. I'm going to make a T. I'm going to come down, and I'm going to make an A. So I'm right here, keeping a nice flat back, good hinge. So make sure you're pushing the hips back right there, as flat as we can get it. I'm going to do a Y. I'm going to hold for 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to do a T. I'm going to hold for 2 and keep pinching as long as I can. And then same thing with the A. Hold for 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. And when I'm releasing that, I'm trying to squeeze my shoulder blades together and keep them squeezed for as long as I can as I'm releasing that. Next up, we've got one more isolated strengthening. We're going to do a squat with a band row. So now we're just kind of really trying to get a little bit of everything on this one. Still trying to activate that upper back, trying to activate those glutes a little bit because we foam rolled kind of everything in front. And so all I'm going to do, I'm going to start with my arms out. I'm going to go slow on the way down. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to hold for 2, and then I'm going to pull in. Hold for 2. 1, 2, 3, 4 to release. So we're doing a couple different things within that same movement. So again, I'm going to go down. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to hold for 2. I'm going to explode up and row as I do that. Squeeze for 2, and then release. 1, 2, 3, 4. So again, those are our isolated strengthening to go with the stuff that we just stretched out. And then just a couple more dynamic movements, things to get everything moving now. We inhibited, so we used our foam rollers for that. We hydrated that fascial tissue, and then we went ahead and we stretched out those same things, and then we isolated strengthening them. And now we're gonna go ahead and do some dynamic movements to kind of tie it all together and actually make it functional and get the body moving a little bit better. So first thing we're going to do is just a sumo squat into a hamstring stretch. So I'm right here, wider than hip width apart, turn my toes out a little bit. So I'm going to drop down here. I'm going to find a little room down in it, trying to keep my back up, kind of move around a little. I'm going to put my hands down, pick my hips up, and get a little stretch out of hamstrings there. I also like to maybe grab the one side, push the hips out, push the hips out, same thing. So that width of that sumo stance is going to be a little bit different for everyone. If you're feeling tension on the outside of your knees, you're too far. We're not necessarily doing what we want to do out of it. So I'm going to go right here, sit down in it, try to push the knees out a little bit if you can. You may or not be able to. And you also might not be able to go as low as I can, right? So just because you can't go this low, maybe right here is where you're at. Great. Hang out there. Maybe give them a little push if you can, but go from here and push the hips up. Maybe if you can't reach the floor, also okay. Just go as far down as you can and try to really push the hips up and get that good stretch in those hamstrings. Even if this is as far as we can reach, great. That's okay. That's where we're at. All right, next one. We are just going to do a super simple plank, right? Tuck our hips a little bit. Bring my hand or my foot. I always say bring my hand to my foot. Bring my foot to my hand right here. And then I'm going to open up over top of that. Another variation, if you can, drop down as far as you can with that elbow and open it up. Come back to the other side. Same thing. If you can drop down, great. With all this stuff, you're going to want to do anywhere from 5 to 10 repetitions. It's kind of up to you. Sometimes people like to hold it a little bit longer, really get that stretch or in that sumo, whatever. It's kind of up to you to feel what you want to feel on these and just keep moving your body. Get a good stretch out of it. If it feels great, hold it a little bit longer. If you're ever getting pain though, that's how you know definitely time to avoid that exercise, move on. You don't want to be feeling pain when you do these things. You want to be feeling a stretch, although sometimes it can, be a little dicey there. I feel a little bit similar. Next, we're going to go right here. I want you to stack your legs over top of you out at a 90. And all you're doing, try to push this leg down. I'm going to take my hand. I'm going to go all the way across here and then all the way back. Follow my hand as I go. I will get a little bit deeper if I push this other hand out. Or you could also drop this leg and go right here. But same thing, you're trying to bring your hand over top. And the goal being to touch your fingers on the ground as you go around. Not everybody's going to be there depending on how tight you've got. But the cool part is the more often you do this one, you will notice that you get closer and closer to touching your fingers to the ground. Next one, we are just going to do a little side lunge with a rotation. So I'm going to be right here. I'm going to lunge out to my side. I'm going to show you both from the front and from the side. So I'm going to get a good side lunge. I'm going to touch down here if I can. And I'm going to rotate open that way. So when I'm doing my side lunge, I see a lot of people come up on their toe. Your goal is to keep the heel down. So I'm going to go right here and push my hips back. Often when we side lunge, I see us going out here. All that's going to do is cause stress on your knee, and it's not going to really stretch you out. So your goal being to push your hips back right here, touch the ground, and rotate open. Maybe you can't touch the ground. Maybe this is all you got. Maybe you got to turn here. That's okay. Again, it's up to you. Just start where you're at. And I got just 2 more for you. 3 more for you. So then we're going to go back to that hip flexor. Oh, tippy. Start right here. Okay. So same thing. I'm not actually leaning forward. I'm just pushing my pelvic complex forward. And then you're going to go here and you're going to reach back and you're going to scoop forward. And you're going to reach back and you're going to scoop forward and pushing the hips back and forth. And then we're going to go side to side. I'm going to rotate side to side here. And then I'm going to go over top, side to side. And when I'm going right here, push the hips, side to side. And all the while, as much as you can anyway, still trying to push that whole pelvic complex forward. And of course, make sure we're doing both sides. All right. And then I got just 2 more right here. So all I'm going to do, the goal on this one is keep my hips square. I'm just going to turn around with my upper body as much as I can. Slowly turn and reach. Same thing the other side. Slowly turn and reach. So I'm right here. I'm going to turn as far as I can. I'm going to reach back as far as I can. Same thing. And again, you're trying to keep your hips square, you're definitely not rotating anything in the lower body if you can help it. And then lastly, this one gets me a little bit dizzy sometimes, so pay attention to that, but it also just feels great a little bit all around. So I call them ragdolls. So we're just going to go side to side, get nice and loose, Big circles. Some people call them halos. I'm gonna go side to side here. Loose as I can, relaxing my whole body. Big circles. Again, that one gets me a little bit dizzy, but I also do it too because it feels good and it stretches me out. So that's our entire day one mobility program. Again, so when you're inhibiting or foam rolling, you want to do anywhere from 30 seconds to 60 seconds. And you can do up to 2 minutes per muscle group. When you're doing the isolated stretching, which was the second step that we did, you want to stretch for 20 seconds to start with. Then you want to take a big deep breath. And as you breathe out, try to increase that stretch just a little bit for another 10 seconds. And then we're going to move into some strengthening techniques. Sorry, I said isolating stretching, not isolating strengthening next. So you're just doing static stretching. Wow, lots of words today. So then we're going to move into third. You're going to do the isolated strengthening techniques, which again, on that concentric movement, so that way down, you're going to do a 4 count, slow and controlled, making sure you have good form. You're going to hold at the bottom of whatever that is for 2 seconds, and then explode on that concentric movement for just 1 second. Then lastly, dynamic movements. It's all kind of up to you how long you want to hold it. I like to try to do anywhere from 8 to 10 reps. Yeah, I think that's all I got. Feel free to message me if you all have any questions. But if you feel like you are limited in your strength and you're not getting the strength gains you want to see, if you're having any uncomfortability when you're squatting or really doing any of the movements that we do here at Fire, it's time to really start thinking about mobility. Something as simple as doing those foam rolling things before a camp. I mean, you spend a little bit of time on a foam roller before or after a camp, stretch those muscles out afterwards, and you are going to get so much further and so much deeper and so much stronger than you think you could. So think about adding a little bit of mobility. No idea how many gains you can get out of it. Thanks for listening, y'all. Stay tuned for day 2.